Hello and welcome to yet another lecture on numismatics at Speaking Archaeologically. Today, we're going to talk about reading Gupta coinage. So, let us begin. Coinage is one of the main sources of history of most ancient empires in the world. And in the case of Indian history, it becomes one of the chief sources of information for the Kushana and Gupta empires. Our lecture today studies 4 such coins of the Guptas and attempts to explain what is represented by way of their inscriptions and iconography, as well as what purpose these coins may have served other than medium of exchange and measure for value. The Gupta Empire ruled over much of the Indian subcontinent from 320 CE to roughly 550 CE. Their coins have been used as an important source of information for the political, economic and social history of India under the Gupta emperors ever since the first hoard was discovered in 1783 at Kalighat, 10 miles from Calcutta, by a person called Nabkishan, who presented about 200 of these coins to Warren Hastings, the then Governor General of East India Company. Hastings sent them to London, and a roll of 24 coins each went to the British Museum, the Museum of Mr. Hunter, the Ashmolean Museum at Oxford, and the Public Library at Cambridge, while the rest of them were molten down. In this lecture, we look at 4 such coins which have survived, and we attempt to explain what is represented by their inscriptions and iconography and the purpose they may have served other than the medium of exchange and measure for value. Before we begin discussing the coinage of the Gupta period, let us first understand what we know of its history so far. V. A. Smith refers to the Gupta age as the golden age of Indian history. It is also believed to be the period of Indian Renaissance that saw significant development in science, metallurgy, language, literature, art, and culture. The Gupta dynasty was founded in eastern Uttar Pradesh in North India by Sri Gupta in 240 CE, with Prayag as its political centre. However, Sri Gupta was probably a small chieftain, and so the real beginning of Gupta era was marked by the accession of his grandson Chandragupta I in 320 CE, and it reached its pinnacle under his son Samudragupta, who became the emperor in 335 CE. Coinage is one of the main sources of history of this period. It is highly debatable whether the coins were issued by Chandragupta I or Samudragupta, because they were mostly struck in the latter's name. However, there's a single type called the King and Queen type, which depicts the marriage of Chandragupta I with the Lichwi princess Kumar Devi. And while it was initially argued that this was the first Gupta coin to be struck, recent studies by the Numismatic Society of India state that it was probably issued by Samudragupta to honor his parents. However, due to the absence of evidence, nothing can be said with absolute certainty, and it is generally accepted that Indian coinage developed significantly under Samudragupta's reign based on the number and types found bearing his name. It was during and after his reign that the coins began to commemorate dynastic successions and various socio-political events like marriages, alliances, ritual practices, as well as artistic and personal accomplishments of the emperors, which were usually depicted on the obverse, while an Indian deity was depicted on the reverse. The gold coins were called dinar or suvarna, while the silver ones were called rupaks, and bore legends usually in Brahmi script. The language on these coins is Sanskrit. However, this was deciphered much later. Indeed, the Gupta coins were first studied by R. Payne Knight in the early decades of the 19th century with the aim of deciphering the inscriptions, and he interpreted them as imitations of Greek symbols and script. However, these were successfully deciphered in 1823 by William Marsden who read the name Chandra in one of the coins and pointed out their Indian origin, concluding that they probably belonged to the 4th century CE. At the same time, H. Wilson and James Prinsep studied these coins for Coin Museum of the Asiatic Society of Bengal and concluded in 1835 that although the Gupta coins followed the pattern of the Indo-Scythian coinage, they were purely Indian in execution. In the latter half of the 19th century and early 20th century, these studies became more extensive due to discovery of more hoards in northeastern India, especially near Bengal. So far, 17 hoards of Gupta coins have been found, the largest of them being the Bayana hoard, found in 1946, from which 1821 coins were retrieved. Other important hoards include the Bhadsar hoard, the Allahabad hoard, the Hooghly hoard, and the Mitchathal hoard. Now that we've discussed the numismatic history of these coins, let us look into the sources of metals and technique of minting with respect to these coins. Metallurgy began in India as early as 2nd millennium BCE with the use of copper and bronze in the Himalayan area. Gold and silver first came into use in the south around 1500 BCE, which is described as the South Indian Iron Age. The oldest gold mines found in India date back to this period and can be found in Maski in Karnataka in the south. Since there is a depiction of Deccan campaigns in the coins of Samudragupta and there is evidence of his southern conquests, it is possible that gold was obtained from the south. The oldest silver mines were discovered in northwest, and it is possible that silver was obtained from this area in the Gupta age as well. The coins were struck using die striking technique, in which either the required amount of molten metal was mixed with the alloying materials and was cast into sheets of required thickness, which were cut into pieces of the required size, or molten metal was poured into the sockets of required size and thickness. The sheet of metal was then struck with the obverse die embedded in the anvil and the reverse die above, while engravings were made by hammering or striking, as a result of which the coins were not exactly circular in shape. Repoussé method has been used on a number of coins to create reliefs. According to A.S. Altikar, the meteorology of the Gupta coins was influenced by the Kushan coins and weighed around 120 grains. However, the study of different coins reveal that it varies from one metal to another and is different for different rulers. Coins weighed 120 grains in the reign of Samudragupta. However, 3 standards of 121, 124 and 127 grains can be found for gold coins alone in the reigns of Chandragupta II and Kumaragupta, while gold coins of 130, 132 and 144 grains are found in case of Skandagupta. However, the percentage of alloy is also different for them. The early Gupta coins contain an alloy of 10%, with a coin of 125 grains containing 113 grains of pure gold, while coins of Skandagupta and his successors contain an alloy of 25%, with a coin of 150 grains containing 113 grains of pure gold. The meteorology of silver coins was slightly more standardized, and throughout the Gupta era, they weighed between 27 to 34 grains, while there was an indefinite weight standard for copper currency, and their meteorology varies from 18 to 87 grains, making it impossible to deduce any scheme in their weighing system. Let us now look into the coin of Samudragupta. Coinage under Samudragupta can be categorized into 6 main types. These are the standard type, the archer type, the battle axe type, the Ashwamed type, the tiger slayer type, and the Lairist type. Of these, the Ashwamed type was probably struck around 355 to 375 CE, in order to commemorate the horse sacrifice ritual that he probably performed to celebrate his victories in the northern and southern India. This coin is made of gold, weighs 7.47 grams with a diameter of 21 mm, and is a struck coin. The obverse side shows a sacrificial horse standing before a sacrificial post or yoop, with a pennon flying over it from the top of the post. The reverse shows the queen standing on a pearl-bordered mat carrying a fly whisk or a chauri and a needle. It also bears the legend Ashwamed Parikrama, which means the one powerful enough to perform the horse sacrifice. Since the king acquired the title of Maharaja Dhiraj, or supreme ruler of the state, after the performance of this ritual, which could only be performed by the king, it is quite possible that a large number of these coins were struck to commemorate Samudragupta's horse sacrifice and his subsequent adoption of the title of Emperor or Maharaja Dhiraj. The chief queen was equally instrumental in the performance of this sacrifice, and so the woman on the reverse of the coin has been identified as Datta Devi, Samudragupta's chief consort. The Ashwamed Yagya, along with the Rajasuya Yagya, which is yet another form of horse sacrifice in which, at the end of the military campaign, the king receives tribute from the vanquished king or kings and in their presence performs a horse sacrifice, indicated the might of the emperor. And the performance of one of these sacrifices by Samudragupta indicates the power of Gupta Empire during his reign. The iconography and metals used for making coins changed significantly under Chandragupta II, also referred to as Chandragupta Vikramaditya, who succeeded Samudragupta and ruled between 375 to 415 CE. The metals used now also included silver and copper, indicating a progress in metallurgy as well as control over the Western Kshatriya empires. And the type of coins could now be categorized as standard type, the archer type, the lion slayer type, the horseman type, the chhatra type, the couch type, and the king and queen on the couch type, as well as the Chakravikram coin. Of these, the lion slayer type is the most common specimen and was struck in different sizes and 3 different classes, which are the lion combatant, the lion trampler, and the lion retreating. The coin that we are going to study today is the lion combatant type and weighs 7.87 grams and is made of gold. It has a diameter of 18 mm. It depicts the emperor holding a bow to kill the lion on the reverse side, with the legend Narendra Chandraha Prathitarano Rene Jayat Yajyo Bhuvi Simha Vikrama, which means the moon among the kings, who is famous for his warfare, who is invincible and who is valorous like a lion, victorious on the battlefield. On the reverse, a goddess, probably Durga, is depicted seated in a lion with a noose in the outstretched right hand and a lotus along with the inscription Simha Vikrama or Vikram the lion in Brahmi. Durga is the goddess of power in the Hindu mythology and a symbol of invincibility, who is depicted to be seated in a lion or a tiger. This coin was probably used to depict either the hunting skill or the invincibility and fierceness of the emperor, as well as show that he was probably a follower of the deity. Also, the depiction of goddess Durga illustrates the cult of goddess worship and its development in Hinduism in that period. Goddess worship, though existent in Hinduism, was not very prominent or widespread in India before this period. It supposedly reached its full flower in the Gupta age and was later incorporated into religious scriptures, most of which were rewritten at this time in order to incorporate new deities, including various forms of mother goddesses, Durga being one of them. So, the iconography of the coin also illustrates the religious and cultural mores of this time, as well as the changes in the religion. Apart from gold, silver, and copper coins, Electrolytic plating of copper coins with silver also started in the reign of Kumaragupta I, also known as Mahendraditya, who succeeded Chandragupta Vikramaditya in 414 CE and ruled until 455 CE. Under him, in addition to the archer type, lion slayer type and lairist type, 12 other types of coins emerged, namely the horseman type, the swordsman type, the elephant rider type, the elephant rider lion slayer type, the chhatra type, the aparatigha type, the rhinoceros slayer type, the Ashwamed type, the Kartikeya type, the king and queen type, and the Garud with outstretched wings type. This coin that we are going to discuss today is the elephant rider lion slayer type, which is struck in gold, weighs 7.95 grams with a diameter of 18.5 mm. It depicts the emperor holding a dagger and seated on an elephant, which is trampling on a lion, and a dwarf can be seen behind the emperor holding an umbrella over his head. The reverse shows a goddess or a female attendant dressed in a sari and wearing earrings, bangles, armlets, and a necklace, with her hair tied in a knot and an arm outstretched towards a peacock, which she seems to be feeding. The coin bears the legend Simhanihanta Mahendra Gaja, which means the elephant of Mahendra killing a lion. This coin depicts an incident rather than a personal talent or some important social accomplishment, a religious belief, or the power and influence of the emperor. Also, an obvious change can be seen in the iconography as the image of a deity or the queen is replaced by that of a woman with no apparent authority or relation to the emperor. This can also be seen in another coin of the same ruler, which also depicts another hunting scene, with a female attendant holding an umbrella on the reverse. The umbrella signifies the political landscape of the Chakravartin ruler, which is the Pali term for a universal ruler, who is benevolent and who rules in accordance with the ethics. It is possible that the depiction actually alludes to an unidentified goddess in both cases, but there is no evidence to prove its significance, or whether it is an imitation of Greek motifs. The variety in the coin types shows that Kumaragupta probably had a peaceful reign. A decline came upon the coinage of the Guptas with the reign of Skandagupta, who came into power in 455 CE and ruled until 475 CE because of a number of wars and military campaigns. The coins were now struck in gold and silver only, and the types were narrowed down to 4: the archer type, the king and Lakshmi type, the chhatra type, and the horseman type, while 2 new types, the bull and the altar type, were introduced for silver coinage. The horseman type coin of Skandagupta weighs around 9.1 grams and is struck in gold. It has a diameter of 20 mm. It depicts the emperor on the obverse side, seated bareheaded on a horse and without any weapons, with his sash flowing behind, and a circular, illegible and blurred legend that can be seen on the coin. On the reverse, a goddess identified as Lakshmi by John Allen is depicted seated on a wicker stool, facing the left and holding a noose in her right hand and a lotus with a long stem in her left hand. A blurred symbol can be seen on the left, and a blurred legend with the words Kramaditya can be discerned on the right. The coin lacks the detailed designs of those issued by early Gupta emperors, and it is clear by the type degradation that interest in variety in coinage had declined by this time. Now that we've discussed the 4 main types that we wanted to talk about in this lecture, let us compare these coins. The 4 coins of the 4 rulers of the Gupta dynasty show not only a change in the iconography and the themes, but also show that coinage was used as a social message. It conveyed the political power of the rulers and served as a medium for the rulers to assert their identity and individuality from their predecessors. This is obvious in all the samples studied today. Even if some of the types of the coins were common for all the emperors, like the archetype or the Lairist type, the coins were essentially different in their designs and detailing, which makes it clear that the coins were, first of all, a way to assert individuality while maintaining a link with the family. Another obvious use of the coins was to highlight the personal accomplishments and the talents of the rulers. The coins issued by Chandragupta Vikramaditya are such an example, as are a few others which depict him and some other Gupta emperors as archers, hunters, Lairists, warriors, etc. Apart from this, episodes from the life of the emperor, scenes of war, marriages, political and social alliances were also depicted, making them an important source for studying the material and domestic life of the royalty. Some coins serve the purpose of conveying pictographic messages which are open to interpretations and may stand for fierceness, splendor, and magnanimity of the ruler. On the other hand, importance of cultural and artistic development of the Gupta age can be gauged through their coins. Depictions of emperors playing lyres, writing and reading, as seen in the coins of Samudragupta, show that learning, art and education had a special place in the Gupta society. The coins themselves have higher artistic merit and display detailed iconography with discernible postures, the garments and jewelry worn, and the features of animals, although they sometimes lack physiognomical details. The goddesses and the yagyas depict the importance of state religion for the emperors. Some coins serve as an indicator of the chief deity for a particular emperor and as a source for change in religious beliefs. For example, the depiction of Durga and Lakshmi in the coins of Chandragupta Vikramaditya show his inclination towards Shaktism in addition to Vaishnavism, while depiction of Garud and peacocks in the coins of Kumaragupta and Skandagupta show their inclination towards Kartikeya as well as Vaishnavism. Another important observation is that, much like the case of modern currency, in which iconography is standardized for a family of monarchs, the Gupta coins also show that certain coin types were common to all the rulers of the family. An unusual change in iconography which can be observed in Gupta coinage is the depiction of women, which was absent in Indian coinage before this period. This depiction can also be viewed from the societal point of view, and when studied with texts belonging to this phase, it shows that the position of women in Indian society had changed in this period. This is also evident from the emergence of goddess worship, a branch of Hinduism referred to as Shaktism, and rewriting of ancient scriptures with incorporation of and special reference to the goddesses. The coins also give an insight into the economic status of the empire. The fact that most of the coins were struck in gold is indicative of the wealth of the empire. The subsequent use of copper and silver, as well as alloys of different metals, and the improvement of skill of carving legends indicates significant development in metallurgy in this phase and the needs of the less well-off sections of the society. On the other hand, use of alloys and metals of lesser value also might mean growing economic problems, which is very likely as the change of metals is simultaneous with major wars, especially in the rule of Skandagupta, Kumaragupta, who were the last great emperors of the empire and whose military campaigns have also been recorded in edicts. Thus, this shows the slow economic deterioration and the subsequent end of the Gupta rule. The coins also act as a source to reconstruct the political history of this period and the existence of some of the kings of the Gupta Empire like Kutch, Prakashaditya, and Chandragupta III is revealed by coins alone, since there is no written record of their existence. The importance of the alliance with the Lichvi is also evident from the depiction on the coin, and in some of the cases, they serve as the only source of information on important political events, like the performance of Ashwamed sacrifice by Kumaragupta. Also, the areas where their hoards were discovered show the area of influence of a particular ruler. Similarly, the dates for the conquest of Western India by Chandragupta Vikramaditya are verified by both the Saka and the Gupta silver coins. There is a difference of opinion among different scholars regarding the influence that governed the iconography of the Gupta coins. According to V.A. Smith, the coins borrowed a number of symbols from the Roman mythology, including the horseman and the lion-slayer depictions. He has identified the Garud as the eagle of the Roman Ori, and the woman feeding the peacocks as Juno from the coin of Julia Augusta, also known as Livia, the wife of the Roman Emperor Augustus. However, A.S. Altekar connects them to Vaishnavism and insists that they are related to Vishnu, the Garud being his Vahan or vehicle, and the peacock referring to the mount of Lord Kartikeya, after whom Kumaragupta and Skandagupta were both named. He believes that the coins were more influenced by the Kushana coinage than the Roman coinage, because the Gupta emperors have been depicted in the Kushan attire. He also interprets the depiction of the goddess on a stool or lion as a Kushan motif of Ardoksho with cornucopia in her hand, which was later replaced by Durga and Lakshmi in the Gupta coinage. The real theme or purpose behind the depiction in these coins is debatable. However, it can be concluded that coinage was a significant part of the Gupta period that has played an instrumental role in creating the impressions of the Gupta age being the golden age of ancient Indian society, as they serve as a source to interpret the social, cultural, religious, political, and economic mores of the Indian society at this time.